Hey team, a very good morning. EURUSD has closed bearish yesterday and we've seen a lot of momentum in towards the downside overall across the board, replicating that overall push in towards the highs that we saw on Friday. Now we're going to dive into EURUSD and see what we can potentially identify in order to take some trades. Now, the first thing that I just want to say, it's not a problem, guys, if you are currently not in any trades. Myself yesterday as well, I have just been sitting this one out, waiting as the market currently has just been consolidating. You never know what could happen. For the same reason, we might just see some kind of God candle come back in towards the highs here on EURUSD. But for now, I am mainly still waiting for a directional bias. However, what is very clean is the overall range play that we've again seen form here on EURUSD. Where we have an overall range high, we have an overall range low, we sweep the range low, boom, reversal in towards the highs, we sweep the range high, and then boom, a reversal in towards the downside. Now again, if you're then looking to trade these kind of opportunities or these kind of ranges, then obviously here yesterday on the 1 hour time frame, we had a nice overall change of character in towards the downside. And these are the kind of setups that I talk about a lot. We had an overall liquidity void resting above the overall, let's say, swing high, and this swing high here is obviously kind of like the beginning of this descending trend line. Now what then happens is you come above that overall swing high and then you can expect a reversal. Now what happens, change of character high, change of character low, this then becomes your supply zone, and then from there, after tapping into that, we sell off in towards the downside. So overall, a clean move if you look at this trade from a liquidity perspective. So congratulations if you were in. Myself, not obviously not. But again, if you're not in these kind of setups, don't have any FOMO, because at the end of the day, the market is just simply consolidating. Now, looking at EURUSD in itself, for myself, there's not really any opportunities to trade this as we're just, again, consolidating. Overall, however, I do see there to be potential for us to potentially continue our overall leg down lower, or at least take out that overall news low that we formed here on Friday, and more specifically that is going to be this low over here, because for myself this is now kind of like a liquidity low again, because I never really like trading off lows that are formed throughout news. So personally, I would not be looking to trade this overall demand zone, and I'll be looking for that demand zone overall to fill and for us to see somewhat of a further downside push, as I would prioritize an overall move towards its overall NFP low next for myself. Also, in addition to that, we have ascending lows over here. So I'm looking to see if we can get that. Now, I'm waiting for that low here to get taken out and to see if we see a strong candle close. And then for myself, I would be looking to capitalize on a further downside push there on EURUSD. But obviously, EURUSD from a trading perspective, or from a supply and demand perspective, or just simply from a market structure perspective, it's extremely consolidative, with currently supply being in control. This is just the main supply zone that I have. For now, there's not really a demand zone, despite, or let's say just only this demand zone over here. That price is fighting in between. But I am looking for us to kind of see maybe today another bearish candle close, and then from tomorrow onwards look for some follow through in towards the downside, towards that overall NFP low. Now that's the setup that I potentially have eyeing up. However, it is not the most ideal setup. There is a cleaner setup, but I'll touch on that in a second. By the way, we did a $20,000 prop firm challenge giveaway inside Discord. If you're not in, make sure to join for the description in this video. We're doing a lot more of these kind of giveaways where I want you guys to analyze the markets as well and identify potential trade opportunities. So make sure to participate. And if you have any ideas, by the way, guys, for some events, let me know as well. Now, the dollar index, obviously here from a weekly perspective, we are still fractal bullish. At this point in time, we're inside of this overall weekly sell down before the big buy up. That is your demand zone, and we're looking for this to continue up higher, as mentioned in yesterday's video. Still as well, the daily fractal also bullish, current fractal low, current fractal high. We've come back down to sweep all of the liquidity that we had here, with this overall black line being swept, which was, let's say, the beginning of this overall ascending trend line. Now that liquidity has been swept, we're looking to see the overall continuation up higher. Now, yesterday I mentioned either obviously we kind of like replicate this move down back up, or if we see some more follow through, then we can start looking for shorts. But the follow through never came, and we started to see the order flow continue its leg up higher. So I'm looking for the dollar index to potentially squeeze up higher, because a lot of people obviously sold here on this bearish candlestick in the anticipation that this would then be supply, or that would be kind of like the bearish confirmation in order to look for a short position with the stop loss above the highs. So I'm definitely looking for us to at least push into that high of this daily candlestick, and then potentially kind of like squeeze even further and see some further upside movements happen. Now, for the same reason that I've not been trading, this could also kind of like be replicated here in the overall price action, because obviously we've just been moving sideways here. So who doesn't say that we're just going to kind of like chop down again and then keep consolidating? So if you really want those high probability plays, kind of like wait for the overall breakout and look for the breakout to sustain, because then we could start trading towards this over here, which is an NFP high. So I'm looking and favoring that overall move, which is in line with the overall, first of all, weekly fractal structure, which is in line with the overall monthly swing structure, and obviously also with the monthly having that third trend line touch here, and then from a daily perspective as well, with the daily fractal being bullish, but also obviously us having here daily demand. Now, the better trade opportunities that I highlighted in yesterday's video was, for example, a GBPUSD, because GBPUSD, in my opinion, is a lot cleaner than EURUSD, in the sense that here, again, ascending price action, very, very clean. What do we have, guys? We have the overall first high, we have the overall second high, and then we have the overall third high. Then we get the overall break in towards the downside. That then means here that we have a break of structure in towards the lows. Now, this break of structure takes place. That then means that this here is the swing high in towards the overall swing low. So this is then your swing high. This is your swing low. This here is liquidity. We retrace above the 0.5 fib. So we're happy to look for that potential short. So obviously the overall initial short position came after us taking out the overall, that liquidity high, which I just highlighted, which is this high over here. That high then gets taken out, and then the 4-hour change of character in towards the downside occurs. Now, again, what has then happened? We've taken out the liquidity of these descending highs that I highlighted in yesterday's video. We retrace into this supply zone. We tap into that supply zone, and now the overall order flow is continuing its leg down. So I'm just looking for this to continue down lower, and the first immediate target is this news low of past Friday. So looking for that to continue its overall road in towards the downside. That for me is as well the higher opportunity or the higher probability play as opposed to Euro, as I just definitely also like what I'm seeing from the daily time frame over here. As for me, that has a higher probability of selling off. In addition to that, also down over here, we have equal lows in the form of this low and this low as well. So I'm looking for this overall swing in towards the downside still to play out on GBPUSD. Going into AU. Overall, I mean, it retraced in towards these imbalance candles here on the daily time frame, and for AU, I'm looking for this to continue down lower, but that is just more based on the fact that I expect the dollar for now, again, to still head up higher in line with the weekly and the daily. For now, this daily supply zone is still in control, daily fractal is still bearish, so therefore I'll just focus on the shorts. On the 4-hour time frame, what I was looking for yesterday has now kind of came into fruition. So let's see what happens. Again, very simply said, here we have a liquidation, and then here we have the change of character down. So now I'm looking for this to continue pushing down lower to take out these lows over here, which is again the news low of Friday. Now there is inflation coming out for the Australian dollar, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not seeing it here, or it was maybe last night. I would have to check. I don't have Forex Factory open here, but there was CPI, I think, coming out for Australia, so that should move the Australian dollar. If it already came out, then obviously it was nothing too special. For now, AUDUSD has just been moving slowly, but once momentum does start to come in, I do see it having potential to take out the lows. This for me is again kind of a cleaner setup than your USD, but preferably I would be in GBPUSD, as that for myself is the more ideal setup where more momentum is positioned at the moment. Going into NZDUSD, NZDUSD is for me also kind of like a setup not very clean. Then I would personally take AUDUSD, because with NZDUSD you don't really have too much. Obviously you have pretty much the entire buy up for the sell down. Daily fractal is still bearish, and we have not yet tapped into this overall sub for the buy up, which is your demand zone. So it makes sense still to sell off in towards the downside. However, on the 4-hour time frame, we're not really reacting to anything here. We didn't really take out any liquidity. So that's why I'm not really a personal big fan of trading NZDUSD. But yeah, if you are in NZDUSD, then obviously just follow the 4-hour fractals down lower, as that should currently cause the market to sell off again. But it is obviously a volatile pair and will depend on what the dollar index does at the moment. And what I mean with volatile pair, it could just kind of like move sideways here and start chopping. That's why I'm personally more inclined to trade GU, where a lot more momentum is currently positioned within the markets. Then if we have USDCAD, USD Swiss, USD and Gold, so USDCAD in itself starts to push up higher from this overall area of demand. Not the best and ideal kind of like play. The fractal low left equal lows behind, so you would preferably want to see a swipe and then a break up, because then you would have the 4-hour change of character forming a demand zone. So I'm not really looking to long this just yet. Obviously, we're inside daily demand, and that is currently causing the market to push up higher. From a daily demand perspective as well, if you look at the fractals, you can see that we were traced into the 0.5 fib. However, for myself, just not a valid setup, as we've left equal lows behind. So I would preferably want to see this sell off in towards the downside again. Furthermore, I also see kind of like a lot of trend line liquidity starting to form here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do start to see a raid in towards the downside, maybe taking out some lows in the very near future. USD yen, then what can we see? Obviously, what I highlighted in yesterday's video, heavily consolidative, not ideal. I am favoring a push in towards the downside to take out this low over here, like we took out this high over here. And then we have USD Swiss. USD Swiss in itself, very similar to USD yen. Again, extremely consolidative. We are kind of coming back towards this supply, which a lot of you are probably monitoring. Yes, you could potentially trade that. However, do you want to be trading this on the daily time frame? That's then the next question that you have to ask yourself. Personally, not. So again, I would then go back and focus on a GU or on an EU once momentum comes starting, or once momentum starts to come in to that pair. Now, keep an eye open, because again, I'm already seeing here on GU some downside rejection. So a lot of manipulation could happen this morning. Still, the markets are extremely volatile. And unexpected, let me put it that way. So I wouldn't also be surprised if we see some crazy price action occur today. But let's keep an eye. If we do see any opportunities, then I'll drop those inside Discord. Then if we look at gold, what we have here on the daily is still not too much, I would say, that I'm very interested in. Again, gold has just been consolidative overall. But if we look and we focus on what the current price action is doing, then we can see that the overall sell here before the buy up, that is then the demand that the market taps into. And since then, what has happened is that we've seen kind of like here the low break, here the low break, and now overall this being our demand that is in control. Now, this demand zone over here, the sub for the buy, has been tapped into with absolute precision, and from there we start pushing up higher. So from here we could look for the overall follow through in towards the upside. So let's keep an eye open if the overall order flow can sustain and gold can continue to push up higher. For myself, gold is bullish, so I'll be monitoring to see if we can get a overall continuation of that order flow in towards the highs. That's kind of like what I'm looking for today. So again, guys, overall messy markets across the board. Don't feel ashamed if you're not in any positions at the moment. For myself, the main focus remains here on GU and EU. But then again, we are still positioned within the overall kind of like range, right? So do not feel ashamed if you're not really seeing anything, because these markets are also just complicated to trade, if I'm very honest. Last week, amazing opportunities. This week, just stay safe and don't waste your capital on unnecessary losses. So that's it for today. This afternoon, we're going live on YouTube, so make sure to be there as well. And I'll drop a link to that YouTube stream here in the comment section down below. Thanks, guys.